lowest wage gains in history. You've been getting it stuck to you. Meanwhile, Wall Street's producing record profits, right? Long-term average for profits on the S&P 500 is 16%. For more than 9 years now, we've averaged 26. Okay? Why is that? Because you shipped all the costs over to China, right? It's not rocket science, right? So, but what people don't read, and you and I were talking about this offline. Okay, we've got now Philly Fed manufacturing report out. We've got Dallas Fed manufacturing report out. We've got Chicago. We've got who else? Atlanta. Okay, all of them are getting hammered. And when I say hammered, when you get one bad print, you can't pay any attention to it. So if one of those four was bad, you wipe it off because it might just be seasonality, might be crazy. When all four are this bad, and when I say this bad, there are 2 times in the last 50 years where those sentiments or those surveys have come in at this level. 08, 09, and COVID. Okay? So, COVID, when those readings came in, you shut down the entire economy.
Yeah, that's an aberration. I mean, that's a once in a century kind of situation where the world was going through it.
Right. And so, look, the flip side is you have a generationally expensive stock market. So I think you've got some room to give some. But look, if let's say if we end with a revamped and sensible trade deal with China, and it costs us a 30% downdraft in the S&P 500, and it costs us, let's say, 5.5% unemployment in an 8-month recession, that's worth it.
Yeah.
For me, right, I think that's worth it. I think it's worth it for our middle class, long-term manufacturing capabilities of this country, all that stuff. But you've got to warn the folks.
Now, let me ask you, and I'm telling you, as talk to Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. I am of the mindset like you. We've got to do it. And quite frankly, I think we've got to go and we've got to absolutely say, this is the reason why. They don't want to be our friends. They've used their opportunity here, especially since Xi took over. Pre-Xi, I think there was opportunities there. But since Xi's taken over, he is a Maoist. He wants to dominate the world. He wants to... They're not our pals. They want to use this money and use our technology that they steal and use all of this stuff to better themselves. They are not interested in pals. And I would say, let's decouple the hell out of this. Let's get out of this. I don't even know if there's a way forward with Xi where we look up and say we can have any kind of real trading relationship because the end game is he wants to beat us.
Yeah. No, so and this, now look, I'm spitballing here. I'm not a part of these conversations. I obviously don't know what's being said behind closed doors. But having said that, as uncomfortable as this could get, because of everything you just said, now I've critiqued the way Trump's rolled these out. However,
you have, because I talked to somebody today and I was doing an interview with them and I said, if it was me, because they buy the whole, like, it's never going to, Trump's great, everything's going to be the greatest thing in the world and blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, the one thing I would have done different, well, I'm obviously telling everybody, but if you were him and you talk about rolling it out different, Zach, would you have gone to all these major people and said, look, come January 1st next year, we're going to go hard. But for the next 10 months, you better start moving. You better start buying. You better start looking forward because once the clock strikes midnight then, if you haven't squirreled away stuff, you're SOL.
Yeah. The other thing that I would have done, and again, maybe some of these things were done behind closed doors as well, and that's the tough part about it, right? We don't know the way. All we can do is just sit back and judge based on what we're seeing here. But the other thing I would have done is I would have gone around to the people, the easy outs, right? The low-hanging fruit. And I would have gotten them on board, formed more of a coalition, and then I would have gone to China last. I would have used all the same rhetoric that he's used. I just wouldn't have been country-specific about it, right? And then, but now flipping back over people that are taking complete umbrage with the way he's handling it, I'd push back here. Because of everything you just said about Z, and I agree 100% with all of it. Like, for instance, It was, I believe, the premier prior to Z was Deng Xiaoping, right?
Yeah.
He was not cut of the same cloth at all.
No,
right? No. He thought opening up and liberalize. Had he or somebody like him stayed in power, China would have unfolded and bloomed much more like we thought it would have in the late 90s. Meaning, remember how we thought they would liberalize, they would open up? He was very much on that wavelength.
Well, because he saw what happened to the Soviet Union. It's like, hey, look, here's the deal, guys. If we don't, you can't control people's thoughts and their money and their life and think you're going to be able to hold it all down, right?
Right.
You better give them either money and mobility or give them free thought, because otherwise you're SOL.
Yep. And so to be fair to Trump, I think it is highly unlikely you get a palatable or constructive trade deal unless you have a sword of Damocles hanging over Z's head applying pressure, right? And then, even then, I think it's going to take, some type of, getting together, some type of, I don't know, new accord where they get, and you can say, look, we don't want to have this nasty relationship with you, but it needs to be more balanced. We're not trying to be, we're not trying to be unreasonable. I'm not trying to embarrass you in front of your folks, but we got to cut a deal that's more beneficial. And I think, China. The other thing that's funny about this is China doesn't need us. China. Look, here's the hardcore facts. The hardcore facts is when you have a trade war between a country that is running a trade surplus and a country that's running a trade deficit. Ironically, and counter to what most people think, the country running the trade deficit has more leverage.
Yep.
Like, full stop. Now, China's a little bit different
because we purchase.
Right. So China's a little bit different because they have a closed capital account. But bottom line is, this hurts them more than it hurts us. Here's the flip side of that. Their populace, because they're authoritarian, will put up with far more pain, far longer than we will. Right? Yeah. Our culture's panicking when the S&P pulls back 7%, trading at 28 times earnings. Right? They start panicking if there's no food. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's a totally different cultural perspective. So Trump's also up against that, right? It's not just can he get a trade deal. It's can he get a trade deal while maintaining any lead in Congress, or he's going to be a lame duck for the last 2 years and then probably blows up anybody's chances for the election in 2028. So. But bottom line is this, economically, and this is what's just killing me right now, Chad, for people like, go look at Apple's earnings, and I will just tell you this right now. What saved their bacon on the earnings, and they're down 4% in after hours, and I would expect them to go down quite a bit more. But what saved their bacon literally was front-running tariffs. They were leasing out airplanes full of iPhones to get them past the tariffs. Okay. Their service numbers missed. Even with all of their work to outrun the tariffs, they still missed on China's sales numbers. Their next quarter is going to be brutal.
Brutal.
And they're still trading at 33 times earnings. They were on the conference call today, they were talking about they just authorized a $100 billion buyback. What in the world would you be buying back stock for a company that is X growth and trading at 33 times earnings? That is insane. So dump them because they're done growing or dump them because their management sucks. Either way, the bloom is off this rose, man. And if you're sitting on a pile of Apple, call somebody, but you need to adjust your portfolio because I don't even think you've started to feel the pain from this yet.
Talking to Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. Everybody's worried about a recession. And I saw Dave Portnoy said, today or yesterday, said, look, you got Navarro out there and you've got, all these guys out there and they're just blowing smoke. He's like, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. All right. Like, we know where this is headed. This is not, don't tell me how great it's going to be when we can't get stuff here at a price that we're used to getting, and it's going to be magical because it's working the way it is and that we're going to have jobs here tomorrow. Come on. Like, be honest with the people, like you said, and tell them what's coming. Don't be the pilot that says, everybody walk around the cabin, feel free. I'm going to drive through a hurricane and tell you it was smooth.
Well, yeah, because and by doing that, you're ushering in the potential for a really bad outcome, which is you don't get any deal. This drives you into recession. Then you have to pull the tariffs, right? Like, you want to talk about blowing up your administration?
Oh,
if it plays out that way, you're done. You're done, right? So, and this is why I was in favor of coming out and being, and they kind of were at first. Then they've kind of capitulated back, but they need to say, hey guys, look, it's probably going to be an uncomfortable 8 to 12 months, but it's better than what we've been dealing with for the last 25 years. Okay, so get ready, buckle up, put some money aside, tighten things up, okay, and we're going to get through this. But and if you do it that way, look, the reason we have to deal with this is because this thing's been punted for 35 years. Right? It's been punted for 35 years. So tell the people that, and I think they'll understand it. I think they'll be, nobody's going to be happy about it, but you put things in perspective. If we can get a sensible trade deal or a reordering of this thing in a way that makes sense, and we can keep unemployment below 6, right? And we keep inflation's in check, the long end of the yield curve stays under control, we can be out of this in 16 months and be fine. Okay? But you got to prep the folks, or it's going to be because the entire establishment, the entire media mechanism is going to be all over this like white on rice. And if you leave, 3 inches, they're setting themselves up to where they need a straight on the river here. And I just don't think they're playing smart poker.
No. People want to reach out to you because you'd be foolish not to. And if you got Apple, you better call right now.
Yeah. So you can give us a call at 866-779-RISK or sign up for one of our webinars. We've got one coming up on May 22nd. It's free of charge. We just run you through what we do, how we do it. Other thing we start doing that's really cool is we've got a lot of tech employees around here that have gotten big chunks of stock over the last 10 years, right? And one guy recently wanted to retire, move like $10 million to us in this stock, but he was freaked out about taking the cap gains. Well, we figured out a way to sell 2 million of his RSUs and not pay cap gains on it, and then sell covered calls on the remaining positions to where we can run the cap gains into next year, but still generate income on the positions. So we can still generate income on the positions. We've avoided cap gains on 2 million of the stock sales. So stuff like that too. We're helping people out with that. If you got big stock concentrations, let us know. But yeah, go to bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com, knowyourriskradio.com, and hopefully we'll run into you.
You're the man, dude. You have a good week. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, you too, pal. Thanks for having me.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.